You're listening to the Huddle Up Podcast with Chad Jensen and Zack Kelberman. Join Broncos Country's deep divers at milehighhuddle.com and sound off. And now it's time to drop some knowledge.
Okay, we're live. We let the screen breathe just for a minute. Make sure it's nice and stable for our great audience out there in Broncos Country. Welcome in, everybody, to the Huddle Up Podcast, presented, as always, by Mile High Huddle, powered by Overtime Media. I'm your host, Chad Jensen. With me, as always, returned from a couple of days off, celebrating America's birthday yesterday. My partner in crime, you know him, you love him. He is Zack Kelberman. Zack, I don't know about you, but in my neck of the woods, last night, I'm one of those guys, I'm not too Scrooge-ish about it. It's not like I go out and get aggro for people, to people during the 4th of July. But I'm one of those guys where after about 10 p.m. on the 4th of July, I don't want to hear fireworks anymore. Like it irritates me. However, last night, dude, I found myself actually soaking it up, enjoying it, really appreciating this particular 4th of July. And I think it's just because of all the, for lack of a better term, drama that's taken place in the year 2020.
Yeah, I've heard in my area way more fireworks than I think I did last year, and I rationalized it to myself that people have been cooped up for so long and just nothing to do. It was their way of compensating for that. It's let's make as much noise as possible. Let's have fun. Let's use the day to our advantage, considering we've had liberties and things and rights taken away from us, Chad. Even temporarily within the last 3 months. And I feel like for the holiday celebrating America's birthday, where we all kind of congregate and let off fireworks and have fun, I think people did a little extra this year. And I'm with you. I'm kind of Scrooge myself. It's annoying to hear. It upsets my cat sometimes. Yeah. But for last night, I understand it. I just don't want to continue July 10th, 15th, 20th. It gets to a point where there's a limit with the fireworks.
Some people, it's like anyone that has kids, they all want to be able to light the firework. Like they want to be able to have the lighter. Any parent out there right now is nodding their head. They know exactly what I'm talking about. But there are actual human beings, grown-ups that have that kind of mindset just about fireworks. They just love setting off fireworks and firecrackers. And I have a neighbor that just spends a ridiculous amount of money on fireworks. But anyway, more power to him. I think this time around, it just kind of changed my perspective on the entire issue, just because, like you said, justified or not, I'm not here to make any, assertions. But yeah, there have been points this year where it does feel like the individual liberties of Americans have been under assault in more ways than one, not just from government, but from it's just a weird year. And it made me appreciate the 4th of July and really what the Declaration of Independence is really all about. End of sermon for me. But dude, it was a good night. I hope you had a good night too.
I wasn't feeling too great yesterday, but it was nice that I think people in general kind of let loose and were celebrating an abnormal day in what's been the new normal of the last 3 months. So, like I said, I'm down for the fireworks on holidays, special occasions, but it grates on you when it lasts beyond that. So hopefully we can kind of settle down now and go back to normal.
Absolutely. Hey, really quick, before we dive into the main crux of tonight's pod, I want to grab Terry Randall. I'm pretty sure he's in the stream. I'd be stunned if he's not in the stream. He left a super chat at the end of the Mile High Insiders podcast last night that unfortunately it happens time to time. We try to make sure it doesn't, but it does happen from time to time. It got missed. So I want to grab this real quick from Terry, and then we will dive into the main crux of tonight's show. He asked the dudes last night, and we do appreciate, as you know, Terry, we appreciate you, my bro, for the support. He says, with a shorter preseason, does the risk of injury go up from the bubble guys trying to ball out in practice? Hashtag Broncos World. That's a really interesting point. I don't necessarily see it happening that way, Zach, but what's your answer for Terry?
I mean, it's no different than just having Lauren Landau be the strength coach, considering that, the not so coincidental lower body injuries the last couple of years. It puts everyone on an even playing surface. And I keep saying this over and over, but it's true. No team has had practice. Every team is in a bubble. Every team is starting from scratch this offseason at once, jumping from nothing in a training camp and then nothing from that into the regular season, maybe with no preseason games. It's an injury factor for every team, but I don't think teams are even considering that aspect so much as the issue going around right now. I think teams are planning on that more than just normal football injuries for the time being.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it. Gang, I want to really quick welcome in those of you who've been hanging out in the stream, waiting for the show to fire off. We got Ernie on Facebook. Excuse me. We got Toy Mafia on YouTube, Robert, Douglas, Matthew, Facebook user. Wish I knew your name, but you got to give StreamYard permission on Facebook. Talon, what's cooking? Flippin' Booch is in the hizzy. We got Big E, and we got this guy. We should grab Mark at the very top of this show because it was a little bit of a sensitive issue that happened the other night on the podcast where I think one of our great superstars got his wires crossed with the particular host. Mark Langley jumping in with the extremely generous super. We love
Thank you,
my
Mark.
friend. He says, "What's up, my guys? Just let you know that I wouldn't ever make fun of people that have a learning disability. My son, Zach, has one and works every day to better himself. Tell Eric his child is not the only one. My apologies. #MHH. So, Mark, appreciate the sentiment. Zach and I know what's in your heart in terms of just what we've come to know from you in the streams. And sometimes wires get crossed. Tonality can be misinterpreted in a text and, a super chat like that. So we understand. And anyone who has, I've got ADHD, especially in my family, runs rampant. And I have a sibling that it was very much something that he struggled with in terms of my mother had to spend countless additional hours when we were children, especially in elementary school and early on in junior high, just spending time helping him understand how to retain things because he could read, he could do math, he could do all that stuff, but retaining what stuff for him was just hard. So I think it's all touched us at one level or another. Zach, we know someone who has perhaps some kind of a learning disability. So we understand. And Mark, I think Zach and I know you intended no offense. It's all good.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what happened. I'm not aware of what was actually said specifically. But, Mark, this is one of those situations where Chad kind of just said it's taken the wrong way through text. You lose tone, you lose context. If you would have spoken those words to Eric with your voice to voice, I think it would have gotten over the right way and it wouldn't have been such a heated issue where it wouldn't have turned into what it did. But I think, as Chad said, we know where your heart is. I think Eric knows where your heart is. And all of the listeners in our community knows where your heart is. And you're a good guy. I know you didn't mean anything wrong by that. And I think we're all family, Chad, and families fight, families squabble, and families get over it. And as we're going to continue doing that.
All right, man. Oh, wait, here's Mark. One more for Mark real quick. He says, "What's up, my guys? Just to let you know that this will be the last time I'm on MHH and my last donation." No, dude, say it ain't so. You guys are the best. Much love and respect for real. Tell Lance if he wants to talk and have a cold one, I'm here. #MHH. Hey, dude, look, like Zach just said, whatever was said on Friday night, I'm hearing about it secondhand. I didn't listen to Friday night's episode. I was out and about doing stuff with the fam for the holiday weekend and whatnot. But maybe Zach and I sure as heck don't want you to leave our community. So maybe
shoot us an email.
Yeah, shoot us an email.
Let's talk it out.
Chatted on Gmail before, so let's email. You're welcome in our community. MHH family loves you. The community loves you. So I don't want you. Not to say you're overreacting, but I don't want you to overreact to having your wires crossed on one individual podcast one night. So stick with us, my dog. It's all good. All right, Zach, let's get into the meat and potatoes of tonight's show. Really quick, though, an update. Make sure you're following the podcast on Twitter @HuddleUpPod. Also, the main account, the mother account @MileHighHuddle. If you follow those two main accounts, all of our new listeners across all different channels, you're never going to miss a podcast update, a programming update, and you're never going to miss any breaking Broncos news and analysis. Also, if you're in a position, check out huddleuppod.com, our merch store. Get your swag on. Get yourself one of these football priest hats. There's T-shirts. There's hoodies. There's mugs. There's a little something for everybody. If you're in a position to do that, it's a great way to support what we're doing here at MHH. And if you're not in a position, it's all good. Subscribe, like, and share. Those three simple things You have no idea how much that can help the channel, help the podcast grow. Subscribe, especially on YouTube. Like this video no matter where you're listening, and share it out if you really like what Zach and I are doing.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
All right, Zach. So we kind of...
This is pretty funny, Chad. That's what I was laughing at.
Dude, I don't know. I mean, seriously, like, I actually upgraded my Wi-Fi a couple weeks ago. I don't know, a month ago maybe. And I quadrupled my Mbps, MHB, whatever it is, my data. I upgraded it by 4 times. So that was really weird. In fact, hold on just one second. Let me check something. Grab a question, grab a soup or something. I'll be right back. I'm just going to check something so we don't have any future problems.
All right, let's scroll through here. Let's take Mike Evans. He's jumping in with the $19.99 donation. Mike, you're the best. Super chat superstar. We definitely appreciate you. As always, Mike, he says, appreciate y'all. What is the chance Phillip Lindsay and Melvin Gordon both get 1,000 yards? And listen, I'm going to be a little less on the attack today about Melvin Gordon. You guys know how I feel about it. It always draws controversy and pushback. To answer the question specifically, though, I think you mean 1,000 rushing yards. And is that combined or individually? I don't think they do it individually. I don't think both are going to clear 1,000, but I think both will definitely be over 1,000 rushing. They should both be over 1,000 receiving if Melvin Gordon works out the way Melvin Gordon, the Broncos think he's going to work out, and Phillip Lindsay takes that next step in his receiving ability. But no doubt about it, they're paying a guy to be the 7th highest paid rusher in the NFL. If he doesn't at least get 800 yards, even in a timeshare, that's a bad signing. Receptions or not, Phillip Lindsay or not. So, yeah, I think it's almost a foregone conclusion. They will combine for over 1,000. Chad, I just don't see it individually getting over 1,000 each.
Well, I mean, it would have to be historic. It would literally have to be a historic type of campaign. There have only been 7 instances in NFL history where a single individual team had 2,000-yard rushers. The Broncos got really close back in 2005 to making that 8 teams that have had that with Mike Anderson and Tatum Bell. But it's a lot easier put it this way. It's easier said than done. I think I've said it on the podcast. I've said it in videos. I've said it in the written word on milehighhuddle.com, but I will be shocked if anyone other than Phillip Lindsay leads this team in rushing this year. I just don't know because, look, if you're John Elway, you've already taken a little heat for signing and paying a running back like Melvin Gordon to be the 7th highest paid, as Zach said, running back, when you already had a Pro Bowl back-to-back 1,000-yard rusher on your roster. You're taking a little heat for that already. The team, it's natural in the NFL, they want to justify their investment in the player, and the best way to do that is to strong-arm them reps on the field. Now, a player as feisty and fiery as Phillip Lindsay is going to make it really hard to just completely sit him down. It's just not going to be possible. Phillip Lindsay is going to see the field, and I remain adamant that he'll probably be the number 1 running back in this offense. But Gordon's going to get more than his fair share, I think, of reps. And so ultimately, Zach, I wouldn't be surprised if Lindsay comes close to 1,000 and Gordon comes in somewhere between like 5, 6, something like that, rushing, but actually does more as a receiver out of the backfield than he does as a ball carrier. But I could be completely missing the mark because I don't think the Broncos have ever had this talented of a duo in the backfield in terms of at the same time as the same coordinator that actually wants to utilize them both on the field at the same time, which Shermer talked about doing. So much of this is we don't know yet how it's going to take shape, but I think Phillip Lindsay could come close. I don't see Gordon coming close, though.
It could be 1,700 total rushing yards and over 2,000 yards from scrimmage collectively for them. But there's also a scenario, Chad, kind of like how you laid out, where they cancel each other out, where having Melvin Gordon on the field takes away from Phillip Lindsay's ability and vice versa. So they're going to work in tandem. They also have to figure how often can the Broncos dedicate themselves to running the football when you have Cortland Sutton, when you use 2 premium picks on Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler, when you use a first-round pick on Noah Fant. Pat Shermer will feel pressured in a sense to push the football through the air. So how much can he really devote to the ground? And if that's the case, don't be surprised, guys, if neither of them go over 1,000, though I think they'll both be close. 900, 800, 800, 750, something like that.
All right, let's the main topic of tonight's show. I know there's a few other supers that have stacked up. We're going to get to you. I promise. We love you. Some of your other questions and comments here. But first, I just wanted to get your thoughts, Zach, on this Melvin Gordon story. That, first of all, there was a really interesting article by Albert Breer of the mothership at Sports Illustrated National, in which he was talking to Trey Waynes and learned that Trey Waynes, who just signed a big multi-year extension in March, or not extension, a new contract, had yet to receive his signing bonus. And as I'm reading this article, all of a sudden went ding, ding, ding in the back of my head. That tweet meant from just a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, when Melvin Gordon went at it with Brandon Stokely of 104.3 The Fan on Twitter. And we even talked about it. Like, what does this mean? Where he said he was unpaid. Well, what we learned from the Albert Breer piece on SI is that NFL teams, only a fraction of them have allowed their new free agents that they've signed to go to a third-party doctor to have a physical. Most of them are sticking to their guns in that they want that physical to be done by their own in-house team doctors. And because of the word that shall go unmentioned, when travel restrictions went into place, and, especially for that first 6 to 8 weeks from, basically the hit the fan with the word that shall go unmentioned, about the same week that free agency actually started back in March. And that lasted all the way through the initial phases of May. And so for whatever reason, it doesn't seem like, Zach, that Gordon has been able to get to the Mile High City in order to have his physical, so that the contract, which at this point, I know it's signed, anyone who's done like a DocuSign on the internet, there are ways to get contracts done and have things signed digitally and things like that. I'm sure that that's been done, but in order for it to be a bona fide contract, it's all contingent on that physical. And until that physical happens, the signing bonus, which for Gordon was considerable, it was a $4 million signing bonus plus a $4 million roster bonus, which he'll get later on. But it's entirely possible, Zach, and likely that Melvin Gordon, who said just 2 weeks ago that he is unpaid, has yet to receive a red cent from the Broncos on that 2-year, $16 million contract, which then casts a different perspective, a different kind of take on the fact that we're critical of him not being in any of the photos and clips that we've seen of Drew Lock's unofficial practices around Denver area parks. We were a little bit critical of Gordon for not being there, but I don't blame the dude. If I'm not signed yet, I don't have that money in my bank account, I'm not going to be there either.
But has anyone gotten paid? I mean, has Drew Lock gotten paid yet for this season? Has Philip Lindsay gotten paid yet for this season? They were out there. They were risking it. Again, it's crappy that it happened to Melvin Gordon, but it's a little tone deaf to say and complain about being unpaid when he got $13.5 million guaranteed. He's going to get his money. There's going to be a season. He will get paid. It's crappy the way it turned out this offseason, but he knew what he was getting into. He knew what the risk was in an offseason like this. And what he got from the Broncos was a very generous contract. So at a time when millions of people are out of work and can't and struggle for jobs right now and going through something so uncharted, for him to say and complain about he hasn't gotten paid when he got a $16 million contract, 13.5 guarantee, he's going to get money. So I can't feel that badly for him. On one hand, I kind of understand you don't want to jeopardize anything if you don't have to. You don't want to work for free. But his teammates are out there. They're also risking it. They're working for free right now. It just would send a better message to me if he's with his teammates.
I mean, those teammates have to worry about NFI injuries as well. Technically, if it's an injury that happens away from the facility or away from the playing field, as sanctioned by the Denver Broncos, it's considered a non-football injury, and it can have ramifications on how you're paid in your contract. So Drew Lock, Noah Fant, Philip Lindsay, Albert O, who's been in recently some of these practices, Jerry Jeudy. I doubt Jerry Judy's gotten his money yet, right? As a rookie, he hasn't even signed yet. I know that for a fact. Hello. None of the rookies have signed yet, but they've been there. So I understand that criticism of Gordon. For me, though, I'm pumping the brakes a little bit on how I viewed it because, I think he's just being a little bit more cautious as a running back. I mean, I don't want to speak for him, but at least I understand why. If he's yet to get that money, he's yet to officially have that contract kick in. All right, I get it, but you're going to be behind the 8 ball when it comes time to hit the grass with your cleats on July 28th. Philip Lindsay's chomping at the bit. Philip Lindsay's talking a little bit of I wouldn't necessarily call it smack on social media, but he's firing off some passive aggressive tweets.
I call it smack.
He's ready to battle you in camp, and you're just chilling. I think the last thing I saw from Gordon on social media was being on a yacht or something somewhere. So pressure's on a little bit.
You know what? I mean, he's acting like, and this is just a guess on my part. This is just an assumption on my part, but he's acting like he's already no doubt about it, number one guy. He's the workhorse. He probably feels like he doesn't have to be there, and that's all well and good. It's not mandatory, but Chad, all this does is up the expectations and the responsibilities. When he gets into camp, he's going to have to hit the ground running, or else he'll face the same criticisms of why weren't you there? Why did you not join your teammates? Did you think you're too good for them? It just opens up a whole other Pandora's box that he might not be realizing right now. So we'll see on July 28th.
An extremely generous super chat from one of our superstars from up on the MHH Mount Rushmore, George Vandermark, jumping in, the all-time number one Queensryche fan in the world. This I know. Appreciate you, man. This kind of support, dude, it just seriously sometimes leaves us speechless. Stammering, stumbling over words means the world to us, George. He says, I can only tune in on Sunday nights live. I've seen how Vaughn is thinking about changing numbers, going from 58 to 40, 58 better than 40. So don't do it. Hashtag Denver Broncos for life. Hashtag Bulls most improved player. Hashtag Zach's Carolina Reaper sauce for the crow he will be eating. So this was something that George actually reached out to me privately on social media earlier today. And was talking about how I think he had just bought his daughter a Bulls jersey, and it had just come in, and he was excited about that and optimistic that Bulls is going to have a turnaround season, and that this is the year for him, and that Zach's going to have to eat crow. Of course, saying it, good naturedly. And I said, yeah, I'm with you on that. I hope that happens, and if it does, we'll both make sure Zach has a little sriracha to go with his crow. It won't be the first time either one of us have to eat crow. But anyway, George, we appreciate you, my brother.
Yeah. And you know what, George? I'll be happy to eat that crow about Garrett Bowles because it means the Broncos will be winning. If he's playing well, the Broncos offense will play well. And if the Broncos offense is playing well, Chad, the Broncos are going to be winning a lot of games. I will be happy to eat that crow and admit I'm wrong. I do every time, whether it's Melvin Gordon, whether it's Jeff Hireman, whether it's Garrett Bowles. If it's best for the Broncos and I'm wrong, I'll be the first one to admit it.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
By the way, Dave, I know you're in Cali. I don't know exactly where in Cali. But I've seen that shot, Zach, I don't know if you have, of a helicopter flying across the LA basin last night on Saturday night for the 4th of July, and all of the fireworks just flying up across the city. And it was almost overwhelming. It's really cool. Find it on Twitter if you guys haven't seen it. But I just thought to myself, man, Americans are just so sick of being cooped up, especially some of these states where the governors have been a lot more strict with regard to, we talk about civil liberties and having liberties infringed upon. I get it. Like there's a certain point where you have to worry about, health and spreading of the word that shall go unmentioned and all that. But it can't come at the expense of the individual's rights, or else you don't live in America anymore. That's just the bottom line. So I feel for people that live in those states that are a little bit more aggro when it comes to trying to enforce these social distancing. And California is one of them, Zach. Mm-hmm. And that image of the helicopter cruising across the LA basin at night with all those fireworks popping off, it's something special to behold.
If you live on Twitter, it makes it seem like people just hate America, and millions of people hate America living here. But you know what the fireworks prove, Chad, and the demonstrations yesterday prove? People don't hate America. A lot more Americans love America than you read about on Twitter. So it's as an American, as someone who's proud to be an American, I was happy to see the country unifying, Chad, in a time where we've been so divided and so apart the last 3 months. So I was happy to see that.
Amen. We got Zeus McPeak jumping in from MHH Mount Rushmore. Speaking
Thank you, Stu.
Appreciate you, my friend. It's Zach and I are looking forward to talking to you Wednesday night.
Yeah.
Stu's going to be on the show, third installment of our Superstars. And we look forward to talking to you then, my friend. Of course, we got tomorrow night's podcast, and then it'll be time for you to make your debut on MHH. We'll be in touch, of course, between now and then. We'll get you set up and staged for it. But appreciate you as always. Let's see what else we got here. Bear with me 1 second here, gang. Whoop, just did a jump. We got KP down in Florida. Showing some love. He says, is Melvin becoming an Antonio Brown? Zach, would that be perhaps taking it a little too far, or is KP onto something?
Well, he's not farting in his trainer's face. So until he does something like that, and you really can't be Antonio Brown. He's not throwing rocks at moving drivers. Antonio Brown, I'm not going to speculate on what's wrong with him, but he's a couple fries short of a Happy Meal, I think. So Melvin Gordon, it kind of pisses me off that he's not there, but I would stop way short of labeling him AB Part 2.
Christian de Jesus, Christian. I don't know if I mispronounced your name, my friend, but just know that if I did, I apologize. Say Christian, $5 super. He said, why aren't the rookie deals getting done? Is it because of you know what? Yes, it is. It's in part due to the fact that teams, the NFLPA is telling players to basically, prepare for the apocalypse and don't, they don't want any of these unofficial workouts to be taking place. Doesn't seem like Drew Lock and company are paying that much heed, because I know Albert Okwebunam, bro.
Got it.
Came into town, I want to say middle of last week. And then Noah Fant last night, published a video on his Instagram that showed him working out, catching passes from Drew Lock. And in the background, chilling there as well, like in those videos, was Albert O. So I'm pretty sure that since that decree came down from the NFLPA doc that, hey, we don't want you guys doing this, no practicing, no interacting until we get to training camp, I don't think Drew Lock and the Broncos, anyway, are paying that much heed. But nevertheless, getting back to Christian's question here, why aren't the deals getting done? It's because I think also, and this was something that was touched on in that Albert Breer piece for SI as well, it's a worthy read, NFL teams aren't quite sure yet what revenues are going to do this year because of fan attendance. They don't quite yet know what to expect. So they're dragging their feet in terms of actually committing the cash for 2020. But the problem is, you're going to have to sign your rookies. Like, there's no getting around that. And a CBA exists. Like, you have to do it. So in that case, I don't necessarily think this is the same as Melvin Gordon's deal not being done or officially. I mean, the deal is done. It's agreed to. It's all signed and all. He just hasn't passed his physical from what we understand. I don't think it's quite the same thing. Once the rookies get to Dove Valley, they're going to report on the 21st. Camp starts on the 28th. I think in those couple of days before and shortly after they report, you'll see Broncos sign so-and-so, Jerry Jeudy, da-da-da-da.
Yeah, with the rookie weight scale being what it is, teams already know for the most part what they're going to have to allocate to these rookie players. There's going to be, some negotiating. There's going to be a little drawn-out process. It all comes back to the issue that shall not be named. It all comes back to that. A lot more deals around the NFL would be done by now if it wasn't for that. But there's so much uncertainty. We don't even know if there's going to be a training camp until recently, Chad. We didn't know about a preseason. We still don't know that. But I don't anticipate any holdouts, any extended problems with that. They will get those deals done by a couple weeks to the later this month.
Let's grab Clay over on Facebook. We don't want to ignore our great Facebook audience. He says, I feel like our defense is meant to stop the pass-happy Chiefs, hence why we have such a high-paid secondary. But do you think our run defense is stout enough to stop guys like Derrick Henry in week 1 and even someone like Nick Chubb in the playoffs? That's a good question. Let's look at what's changed. Because last year the Broncos were solid. They weren't a great team against the run, but they were more than solid. What's changed? Well, out goes Derek Wolfe, who was a phenomenal run defender. But then again, Broncos didn't have him for the final quarter of the season. In his place is Jurrell Casey. I think it's a fair argument to say that's an upgrade against the pass and against the run. Same linebackers off the ball. You're going to be getting Bradley Chubb back, which is going to be improved against the run, setting the edge. So I think I'm not too worried about the Broncos stopping the run, to be honest with you. I'm way more worried about the Broncos stopping the pass. You bring up, the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes, Zach. Until I see A.J. Bouye playing well in Fangio's scheme, I know they've talked about him as being a great fit, and I think he is a good fit. But until it comes out in the wash, you guys hear us use that phrase quite a bit on this podcast. Until it comes out in the wash, I just not getting my hopes up too much. The same goes for Bryce Callahan. We don't know yet what to fully expect from Michael Ojemudia. Is it going to be Devontae Bosby? Is Isaac Yiadom going to step up? What about Devontae Harris? Where's Duke Dawson fit? So many questions on the cornerback level that I'm more worried about that as a concern for the defense.
I mean, yeah, those are great running backs. You know, guys like Derrick Henry, Nick Chubb, they're going to get their yards. They're going to get, that's why they get paid too. But the Broncos are a defense that's built much better to stop the run than, like Chad said, play the pass. They have on the defensive line, not just Jarrell Casey, but of course Mike Purcell. They have Ajim, who they drafted. They have Covington. They have Draymond Jones. Those are run stuffers. Inside linebacker, you have Todd Davis, who's great against the run. Safety, Justin Simmons is a great tackler. AJ Boye is a good tackler. Bryce Callahan's a good tackler. I am not worried at all about stopping the run. On certain running downs, you can stack the box, you can play personnel. And who better to stop Derrick Henry than Jarrell Casey in week 1? I'm not worried about a matchup like that.
We got Frankie showing some love on Super Chat. Very generous. Thank you, appreciate you, Frankie. He says, hey guys, been away for a while. That's true. We haven't seen you in the stream for a minute. He says, we'll probably catch up later as I'm recovering from a day of fishing with the daughters today. Hashtag 71 days. Really appreciate that. That blows our minds, man, when we have listeners in the community who know what time we stream. We stream the same hour every single day, 7 days a week. Maybe they have something come up. Maybe they're under the weather, whatever it might be. They jump in, they leave a super chat, and then they don't even wait to hear what we have to say. They're going to listen after the fact because they got things cooking. Like, to me, it's just, it blows me away how lucky we are, how great our community is, our MHH audience. We love you guys. Appreciate you, Frankie.
And I hope you had a good day with your daughters. I mean, family time. Family is more important than anything else. And we appreciate having you here. But as long as we had a nice, Independence Day weekend, that's what we like to hear.
Stony Neff says, hey, Zach, I heard on the radio on converting third down conversions on 3 yards or less that Philip Lindsay was a 20% conversion, whereas Gordon was 80%. What's your response to that? Which is true. That's one knock on Lindsay, aside from his less than stellar hands, I'll just put it that way, is the 3 yards or less. But Zach, you look at 190 pounds, 5'8". I think that explains quite a bit there.
And what also does is Scangarello running the man inside and not outside. He was never used to his strengths last year, and that's why in 2018 he was a more explosive, game-changing player. He was getting the ball in space, running to the outside, to the edges. They were using him like Royce Freeman, and they're two different types of running backs. Whereas Melvin Gordon was better coach, he had a better quarterback, and a better offense around him. So it's not really apples to apples to me in that sense.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
If you guys see me popping in and out of the screen the last couple of minutes, it's because I'm trying to get my wife's attention. I'm very much a ritual guy. I need my stuff at the specific time. I need my Red Bull, dude. It's not here. And I forgot to grab it, and I'm trying to get her attention. But anyway, I agree with you. Like the whole thing about Lindsay and the 3 yards, there's so many things that explain that. I mean, you really do need to pay attention to the context or think about the context here. First of all, last year, the offensive line, they just didn't do as good of a job of blasting open holes as they did in 2018. That's just the bottom line. That's the truth. On top of that, Philip Lindsay is 190 pounds. What's Gordon, 220-something? Right. Just off the top of my head. I mean, it makes a huge difference on moving the needle on short yardage. Lindsay runs, put it this way, Lindsay is a 190-pound back who tries to run like he's 230 pounds. Like, that's his mindset. He loves and thrives running between the tackles. But in short yardage situation where you have the opponent gearing up on the high percentage likelihood that you're going to be running it, so they stack the box, they come in, you need that additional size and power that Lindsay just doesn't have. So that's why, in a last year, for example, in those short yardage situations, unless you have a little wrinkle that you're going to deploy, like a fake inside pitch outside to Lindsay where you can utilize his speed to the edge or something, you want to use Royce Freeman if you were Rich Scangarello last year in those third down, short yardage, goal line. You don't want to necessarily vulture Philip Lindsay's potential touchdowns, but at least on third down, when you got to move the needle, you got to move the pile, you need a guy that's got a little bit more power, and that's something Melvin Gordon brings to the table unquestionably.
Plus, if all these Broncos fans have accepted Melvin Gordon being a true workhorse, why is it surprising that a non-workhorse, quote-unquote, like Philip Lindsay isn't getting it done on third down? It's not really between the tackles. That's not his game. It's getting the ball in space, a pitch, a toss, a screen, some sort of quick pass, which he can catch. That's what Philip Lindsay does best. You can't really compare it in certain scenarios. There's so many different factors that go into play, Chad. So together, they'll be third down killers. So will the Broncos offense. And that's what I'm going to keep it at.
All right, let's see what else we got here. Man, I can't believe we're already at 34 minutes. Like, it feels like we've been talking for 5. Yeah, Buana, I've already got an email drafted for Mark. I'll reach out to him. I'm going to talk to him. We don't want him feeling the way he's feeling right now. It's all good. Especially you get wires crossed. Clay, Chad, I know you're paying with the Wi-Fi, getting a cord from Best Buy, Amazon, or anything called Ethernet. Basically, it's a cord. You know what's funny, Clay? Thank you, my dear. My daughter's the best. She brought it to me. Oddly enough, I don't stream with the Ethernet cord. I'm within 3 feet of my router. I don't stream with the Ethernet cord, though, because when I was doing it with the Ethernet cord, it was actually when we were having the most little pauses. This was before I upgraded, so I haven't tried it since I upgraded. Maybe I need to, but this is the first time tonight's show early on, Zach, since I have upgraded, that there's been any kind of internet connectivity issues. And the only thing I can imagine that it is maybe my son is downstairs playing Xbox when he shouldn't be putting a demand on the broadband or the bandwidth.
It's always going to be out there, Chad. It's always, in this day and age, doing live shows like this, the technical aspect. I can attest to that. So many times my internet's been down, and at the last second I had to reset my router. So you seem pretty clear, though. So no lagging, no glitching. Let's keep our fingers crossed.
We try to bring you a high-quality product, gang, on the regular every once in a while when you're streaming and you're in different physical locations. There's going to be wrinkles we got to overcome. We got Steven, one of our longtime listeners of the show, a bona fide superstar, jumping in. Really appreciate that. He's rocking the Jerry Jeudy jersey. Nice. In his profile pic, he says, less than a month till we have football. The rookies report on the 19th. Can't wait to see Jeudy and KJ Hamler this season after watching Hey Rookie. I finally got around to watching that. It's been a few weeks back now, but that was fun, seeing both those guys, and KJ Hamler's parents in particular, his mother the night he was drafted. That was just for anyone who watched that, his mother, man, she was just so stoked for her boy getting the call finally in the second round. So we're with you on that, Steven. It's going to be fun. Just to know the Broncos are back in the building, coaches and players, rookies, veterans will join them a week later. That alone is going to be phenomenal.
Every time I watch a new Jerry Jeudy little workout clip or anything pertaining to his football ability, Chad, I'm just left completely blown away. He is going to be a day one star for the Broncos. And no, like I wrote, not enough to make Courtland Sutton expendable, at least not yet, barring a Hall of Fame type debut, but he is going to be a fun weapon for this passing attack. Drew Lock is going to have a lot of memories throwing to Jerry Jeudy. I cannot wait to see him in action.
Buana Beast with an interesting topic here. Would Netani Muti, the 6th-round guard the Broncos drafted this year, be the best goal line fullback? Probably. I mean, that dude is a freaking beast. I can only imagine him actually getting ahead of steam before making that contact for his block. Like a fullback starts in the 3-point stance and then fires off and gets a little bit of a running start before he pops that linebacker. Muti would just be a freaking wrecking ball in that situation, but he has to make the roster first, Zach.
Can we have Muti be in the backfield, have him throw a touchdown against the Chiefs to get back at Dontari Poe doing that? That would be amazing, Chad.
Amen. Mundungus Creevy with one of the most unique names in the community, in our superstar community. Appreciate you, my brother. He says, David Njoku trade and cut Hireman among other tight ends. It's funny you bring up both those topics because today I published the first article in our Broncos on the Bubble series that we do each and every summer. This year, I led with Jeff Hireman, who, if you're going to forecast a quote-unquote surprise cut for the Broncos this summer, he's the top candidate, not so much because it would be a surprise, but because he's a relatively well-paid veteran that could find himself on the outside looking in. Hireman's got an uphill battle. I know he's a veteran. I know he's a John Elway draft pick. I know John Elway likes him some Jeff Hireman, but they have a logjam at tight end, and they just paid Nick Van Nett. If they loved Hireman as much as – if they really loved Hireman, let me put it this way, they wouldn't have signed Nick Van Nett because they're basically the same player, to be honest with you, except Hireman has better blocking grades in terms of the advanced analytics than Van Nett did. As your recent article, Kelberman's Corner, sussed out there, Zach, he was not – a player that garnered much praise for his contribution in 2019 at least.
I just don't see the Broncos drafting a first-round tight end in 2019 and then trading for a former first-round tight end in 2020. You just don't do that. They have enough in that room right now. Old guys, young guys, veterans, youth. Njoku is a high-risk, high-reward type player. You don't have to give up draft compensation. The Browns want a first-round pick, which is not happening. Plus, his contract as a first-rounder, it's not necessarily cheap. I just don't see it happening. Cut Hireman, you have Beck, you have Fort, you have Fumagalli, maybe even Jake Butt can surprise. You never know anymore. But you have Noah Fant as a no doubt about tight end one of the future. Nick Van Ed is a quote-unquote blocking tight end. You're good. Enough weapons on offense. You don't need Njoku. It'd be a luxury move that would not offer as much upside as would potential downside.
There's just no room for him. Not only you got Fant, but you've got Albert O, who's actually faster than Noah Fant, surprisingly. We'll see if that comes out in the wash in terms of with pads on and in real game action and whatnot. But the Broncos are loaded for bear at tight end.
Yeah.
They're going to, by the time they get to the 53-man roster cut down, those 3 or 4 guys that make the roster are going to be 3 or 4 really good tight ends. You don't need to go out and give up compensation to acquire Njoku, plus take on malcontent. I mean, you got enough problems as – you've exercised those demons already in the past. You got rid of guys like Emmanuel Sanders and Chris Harris, and it's time for a new era, new peaceful, copacetic energy.
Yeah, and you brought aboard Melvin Gordon. You can only have one of those in the locker room. You don't need Njoku on top of that.
All right, let's grab Christy, the queen of MHH, jumping in, showing some love. And Mark, hopefully you're listening here. She says, thanks, guys. Always a good time. Mark, I don't know the situation, but wish you the best. Hope you stick around. We echo Christy. Yeah. We don't want you to do anything rash, bro. Stick with us.
We're all close-knit. We're all a family. We're all a community, Mark. It's trust me, Eric, and no one holds anything against you, and we're all supportive of you and vice versa.
Yeah. All right, let me see what else we've got here. 41 minutes. We got some time. Ooh, here's a good question. James Campbell, who you all got a chance to meet on our last Superstar segment. Who has the bigger can of Pringles on their shoulders, Zach? Philip Lindsay or Drew Lock? That's a really interesting question because they both have sizable chips on their shoulder, but for slightly, I guess at the end of the day, it's for the same reason, but at varying degrees, the same reason. Drew Lock didn't get omitted from the scouting combine. Drew Lock, even though he didn't go in the first round, he did get drafted in a premium round, right. Whereas Lindsay was basically snubbed across all those platforms, if you will. And then to add insult to injury, after he posts 2,000-yard rushing campaigns to open his career, the Broncos give $16 million to another running back. Like Lindsay, if I had to, act straight up, Lindsay's chip is probably significantly bigger than Locke's. But that's not to take away from Locke, who very much, is kind of in that Aaron Rodgers mode where he slipped. It was humiliating. He went all the way out, fell completely out of the first round, didn't even come back to the green room for the second round, stayed in his hotel the next day. I think Locke definitely has some chip. He's out to prove some people wrong, but I don't think it can come close to Lindsay.
Locke will always have that internal motivation, Chad. It's just part of him having that it factor. But he also knows he's the franchise quarterback, at least the potential franchise quarterback. His job is safe. And he saw the Broncos make every move with him in mind. Philip Lindsay, you can argue they made a lot of moves without Lindsay in mind. They didn't pay him. He's making $750,000 compared to $8 million for Melvin Gordon. People say he can't catch. People are already giving up on him. He was a fan favorite superstar just last year. Then Melvin Gordon comes in and he's chopped liver. So I think he has a much bigger can of Pringles on his shoulder, not only because he's trying to prove he belongs in Denver, but proves he belongs in the NFL as a true workhorse. You wouldn't have seen him post up on Snapchat, him saying, here, look at this, they'll all see him catching a pass. That's because of the addition to Melvin Gordon, and that's because of the slight he feels from Denver this offseason.
All right, let's grab Benji Clay jumping in, a name I don't recognize on the super chat. And
Thank you, Benji.
Yeah, the hashtag first time super. Really appreciate you, Benji. He says, if Melvin hasn't been paid because of a physical, I don't know about you, but I would drive to Japan overnight for a bag like he's got coming. Zach's right. He should be with his teammates anyway. I get what you're saying. I understand both sides of it. if I'm a 24, 25-year-old pro, former first-round pick, I've made a little bit of money, but this is probably the last time I'm going to make the big money. And I know that if I go out and I get hurt on that field playing in some Denver area park, there's a good chance the Broncos will try and find a loophole to get out from that contract they owe me. And I don't want to risk that. Like I can understand how that could be paralyzing. You just want to wait till that you get that money and then, let the chips fall.
How about at least get in Denver, though, Chad? It's been 3 months now. At least come to Denver and show your face. You don't want to work out fine, but at least for the optics, for the front-facing, viewpoint, for his fan base, for the Broncos, for everyone, show your face there. Make it look like you're involved. Just make a little effort. Get to Denver. Nothing is stopping you, Melvin. You should be out there, if not playing with your teammates and being around your new teammates, just to assimilate yourself.
We have the better half here of Derek Green showing some love on Super Chat. Adina Simon, really appreciate you jumping in, showing some love. It's good to see you. She says, great to see you guys. Oh, no, this is Derek. Me and the wife feel the same about Gordon. We just won't really like him until he's playing and playing well. Till then, we just aren't feeling his energy. Hashtag Denver Broncos for life. So Derek and Adina, really appreciate that.
Yeah,
I think a lot of fans feel that way. Zach, we have been accused, or at least, we have been accused on this podcast. I have been accused on things I've written at milehighhuddle.com that we're trying to gin up conflict between Philip Lindsay and Melvin Gordon. We're not ginning up anything. We're not just pulling things out of the air.
Right in front of
you.
We
are reporting things that are taking place, and that's the job of the media, is to report that to the fans, to the people at large, to the public. And also what we do in the blog realm is we analyze it after the fact. We tell you what happened, and then we tell you what it means. That's what our job is. That's what we do. That's what makes MHH MHH. And in the case of Melvin Gordon, just so far his trajectory as a Bronco for a lot of fans has been lackluster. But I'm hopeful that by the time he gets to Denver and actually gets his money and suits up and gets out on the grass and playing, by the time you get to the football season, I think he'll start making plays and fans will show him some love. Kind of like when Jamal Charles was signed. Remember that? What was that, 2017, Zach?
Yeah.
I mean, this was a guy Broncos fans hated for a decade, right, in Kansas City. And at first they didn't quite know what to make of him being a Bronco. And, in his case, it didn't work out well. He fumbled. When he kind of appeared to be kind of getting some momentum as a Bronco, he had that terrible fumble against the Chiefs, against his old team, and he just never recovered. But we'll see. Hopefully Gordon can earn back some love and respect from people like Derek and Adina.
I've resigned myself to Melvin Gordon being a Bronco, and I wish him the best, because if he's good, that makes the Broncos offense better and the Broncos better by default. But I'm never going to like that contract, Chad. Unless he just justifies it by having a 1,200, 13-yard, 10-touchdown season, I'm never going to like the Broncos making him the league's 7th highest paid running back when you have Philip Lindsay on the roster. And I'll never back down from that statement either. I mean, a lot of people disagree with my stance on Melvin Gordon. That's fine. I like Philip Lindsay a lot. I acknowledge Melvin Gordon being a good player, but I will never like that contract. And if I'm wrong about it, if he has a huge year, if he makes the Broncos offense better, if he wins games on his own, I'll be the first one to admit I'm wrong. But until that point, I am always going to be perfectly content dying on that hill.
There.
Perfect timing.
Now we're back. I plugged into the I'm just said screw it. I'm plugging into the router this time. Hopefully it doesn't do like it did in the past and do a little buffering every 2 minutes. Sorry about that, guys. We're rolling with the punches. I don't know what's going on. I've been told by the missus that all my kids are off of streaming right since I mentioned it about 25 minutes ago. So bear with us. We're on the home stretch anyway. All right, let's jump on to David in the house. I see a profile pic like that, and it just makes me proud, makes me feel humble. Hope everything's going okay with you, David.
Hope you feel better, David.
You go unnamed. Hope you're feeling okay. He says, will the Broncos be allowing fans into camp this year? I would be flabbergasted if that were to happen. In fact, Zach, we learned, I think it was Friday from Mike Kliss, that the Broncos are going to be even extremely paranoid with allowing media in. Only 6 are going to be allowed in, 6 media members. And it's not going to be like it has been traditionally where they're in a room asking questions at the podium after a game. Everything's going to be continue to be virtual, social distancing. They won't be allowed in the locker room. But there are a lot of our colleagues out there in the sports media industry, Zach, who are 100% dependent on access to the team. They're going to be left on the outside here, and it's going to be tough on them. They need that access in order to sell whatever they're selling. Right. And that's one small mercy for MHH, the brand that we've built, the community that we've established. We don't need that. We're going to continue to do our thing. The Broncos are great with us. Don't get me wrong. They are very helpful with MHH. But if they're not going to let or if they're only going to let 6 media guys in for camp, Zach, they're not going to let fans in to even to view on the berm or the hill surrounding the Dove Valley practice field, their UC Health Training Center. And a lot of it, too, comes down to, there's this thing about going around about waivers, right? Would you sign a waiver as an NFL fan in order to be able to attend a game? Well, that tells you that teams are a little bit worried about liability, Zach. They're a little bit worried about someone coming to a game, perhaps contracting the word that shall go unnamed, turning around and trying to sue the team or sue the league for getting the word that shall go unnamed. And the same applies likely to training camp. So for now, I think they're just going to eliminate that as a possibility.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't even know if fans are going to be at games this year, and that's in September, and training camp starts July 28th, there's not going to be anyone but super essential personnel near the field. When they're restricting media to 6 reporters, in training camp chat, there's upwards of 24, 3 reporters at any given time. Access is a lot easier in training camp than during the season. And if they're not allowing them for that, I wouldn't get your hopes up. If anyone has tickets to see the Broncos this summer in training camp or the preseason, I would maybe look at getting your money back, maybe looking at getting your flight refunded. It's probably not going to happen. I'd be shocked.
Yeah, write it off for now. Just hold on and hope that you're going to be able to have the opportunity to go to a game. Training camp, it just isn't going to happen. We got Dave from Georgia, jumping in, showing some love. It's good to see you, Dave.
Thank you,
Dave. A minute. He says, hey, guys, got off early tonight. Just wanted to show some love. Very kind, very sweet, my friend. We appreciate you, Dave, from Georgia. We got a lot of listeners in Georgia, Zach, including our friend Mark. So Mark and Dave, good to see you. George jumping back in. Whoa, that's not George. That's Terry. What happened? Whoa. I clicked George right as Buana clicked Terry. Click Terry again, Buana. There he is. Hopefully you saw that we got your super chat from Saturday night's pod that got missed at the top of the show. Hopefully you saw that, my brother. Really appreciate the love. Up in Canada, proving, as always, exemplifying the fact that Broncos country is not a geographic location. It is a state of being. And Terry's one of the superstars who has reached out to us that wants to accept an opportunity to come on the show and have a little segment and a little sit down. So we look forward to that here in the very near future, Terry. George, jumping in again. Appreciate you, my brother.
Thank you, George.
He's got a message for Mark as well. Mark, don't go anywhere. We all love you, bro. Just found out my brother who lives with us has the thing we are not allowed to mention here. Ooh, yikes. Well, that's unfortunate, my friend. Hopefully get some zinc. There are some drugs that they have found actually work. There was some bad reporting initially on a particular drug. Turns out it actually has a positive effect. So I'm sure you don't need us to point you in the right direction, George, for good medical attention. It's good to see you. And we echo that. Mark, stick around, dude.
Yeah.
We don't want you bouncing out. We don't want you.
Hope he's listening.
Community. We need you here, buddy. Dude, can you imagine without the jokes, the smiles, the laughs?
I know. I missed the Garrett Bowles jokes already.
All right. Here's Flynn on Facebook. Hey, guys, do you think there will be an actual competition for the number 1 running back spot, or will they just give it to Gordon because of his contract? You can't just give it to Gordon because Philip Lindsay is the man in that locker room. So unless you want to completely lose the locker room, you can't do it, and the Broncos won't be able to do it. Now, they can strong-arm him reps over a guy like Royce Freeman and anyone else they end up carrying, but you cannot just unseat Philip Lindsay. You're going to have to make Gordon earn it. It's just a matter of once that gets established in the football season, once the football season rolls around, how much does Gordon eat into Lindsay's reps and snap count? Because I honestly believe still at this point, I've already said it a couple of times on tonight's show, I just don't think he's going to be able to authoritatively unseat Gordon unseat Lindsey in training camp. So I just don't see that happening.
Theoretically, the competition should make both running backs better, but what happens if Phillip Lindsay just totally outperforms Melvin Gordon? How does that signing go down? How does that look for the Broncos when your $750,000 running back is outperforming your $16 million running back, $8 million per year? So it can work against the Broncos as well. The competition should make both better, but Lindsay, like we keep talking about, Chad, it's become real now. It's not our opinions, it's reality. It's right in front of you. Lindsay will do everything in his power to, cede that job to Melvin Gordon. If Melvin Gordon wants that RB1 job to himself, he's going to have to pry it from Phillip Lindsay's cold, dead grip.
Remember that clip we watched just the other night? I think it was on Thursday night's show. He said, doesn't matter who they bring in, doesn't matter who they pay, they got to get through me. And to quote Lindsay, it's very hard to do that. I mean, that's the truth. And I love that. And yeah, Aiden, it does give me a little bit of a lift, right? I'm a caffeine guy. You got to have something to keep you locked in as a digital content creator. And I'm very much, as I mentioned, I'm a creature of habit. I got to have my little rituals ready to roll in their proper place. Let's grab Jess here, who has an unfortunate situation going on. We want to give our support and love and thoughts and prayers to Jess, who says, I'm in the hospital. My fiance received another kidney transplant. I love the Broncos. I love the MHH crew. Thanks, guys. So for Jess, I assume I'm guessing by your handle that you're in Colorado. I don't know that for sure, but wherever you are, doesn't matter where you are. We want to send our positive vibes and support your way, my friend, and our best wishes and prayers for your fiance. So positive vibes, my brother.
Let us know when you can how everything's going. We'll both keep you in our thoughts and prayers. And if you need anything like Chad and I always offer, please reach out and email us.
Absolutely. milehighhuddle@gmail.com. Anyone in our audience, you're welcome to contact us at any time for any reason. That's how you get in touch with us via email. Greg, hey, dude, better late than never. My man, it's good to see you. We're just happy to have you in the stream. Jess, our thoughts and prayers are with you, buddy. And your missus or your fiance there. Let's see here. Let's grab Ron Dubb. It's been a minute since we've seen one of our bona fide superstars. Ron Dubb, it's great to have you back. It's not the same without you, dog. So thanks for being with us tonight. Thanks for showing love on Super Chat. He says, hey, guys, long time. I'm so ready to see Judy break cornerback ankles this year. Do you think Locke's footwork will be a concern this year? I saw improvement and don't think it will be much of an issue. Ron, it wasn't perfect, right? There were some, you could, if we went and did a film breakdown, and maybe we can do one of these on YouTube one of these days and just say to heck with it on this particular episode. We're not going to, we're not going to be able to monetize this video. Maybe we'll do a film breakdown on Drew Lock and his 5-game sample size last year. But it took his footwork, although, Zach, it was far from perfect, it was leaps and bounds better than it was in the preseason. So if he can make improvement over an 11-week exile on his footwork, I'm optimistic that it'll only continue to improve. Some things I think, you're not going to be able to completely coach out of him in terms of he's going to be a guy that occasionally throws off his back foot because he trusts that arm. And guys like Mahomes can get away with it because they just have that arm. Locke has that arm too, but he hasn't been able to prove anywhere near as consistently as Mahomes that he can get away with it. So his coaches are going to try and, coach that out of him as they should in terms of, making sure his platform is sound and solid when he drops back and plants and lets loose. So I'm optimistic, though, Zach.
You can argue that footwork and technique like that is Drew Lock's only flaw. He really has everything else down, and it's one thing that even Elway called him out for last year. He has to clean up his footwork. But like your point, Chad, what I was thinking is he's going to live and die by that. As much as he's going to improve his technique and his footwork in the pocket, he's going to also throw off his back foot. He's going to throw off platform. He's going to change his arm angle. He's that type of quarterback. You're never going to get a perfectly sound, wrapped up in a little box with a bow like Alex Smith. He's never going to be that type of quarterback. He is Brett Favre, Tony Romo. He's a playmaker, even Patrick Mahomes. So as much as he's going to take those steps and make those improvements, he's going to have times where it's going to lead to interceptions too, but a lot more times it's going to lead to positive plays, touchdowns, third down conversions. It's just the type of quarterback that Drew Lock is. And the Broncos, if they're smart, they're not going to change that too much.
Amen. Kenneth always has good questions, good comments, excellent takes on YouTube. He says, if Lindsey doesn't end up extending with the Broncos, what is the perfect fit for him? I think the Ravens would be a perfect fit, especially when they move on from Mark Ingram. Lamar Jackson and Lindsey would get 2,000. I don't know, Kenneth. There's a lot. I mean, honestly, dude, I could see him crushing it almost anywhere. He's a special player. Where wouldn't Philip Lindsay be a good fit is probably a more difficult question to answer, but I really hope it doesn't come down to that, Zach. I mean, he's entering his third year. After this year, he's going to be a restricted free agent in the same year that Gordon will be entering the final year on his contract. So they'll both be hitting free agency the same time, which is during the 2022 offseason. And so I think the next 2 years, obviously, is going to determine which of those two guys end up sticking around. And I'm just not going to ever bet against Philip Lindsay. I think you are remiss to bet against Philip Lindsay in any situation, whatever it is. If it involves his performance, Zach, or his work ethic or whatever, he just is the guy that comes out on top.
Put Philip Lindsay on the Patriots, he's a 1,300-yard running back. Put Philip Lindsay on the Eagles, he's a Pro Bowler, no doubt about it. He can succeed on any team given his skill set. He's not the biggest, he's not the strongest. He has some, blocking deficiencies, quote-unquote catching deficiencies, but he would help out 31 other teams. And if the Broncos don't pay him next offseason, Chad, or the offseason after that, some NFL team will. He's going to have a bright future and a long future in the NFL, and I can only hope the Broncos are wise enough to keep him right where he is.
James says, I'm positive the Broncos will use a second-round RFA tender on Philip Lindsay. When he becomes more consistent in the pass game, he can get a deal similar to Austin Eckler. If Lindsay gets his receiving chops up to the same level as Eckler, Zach, he deserves a contract actually richer than the one Eckler got because he's a better runner. He's a better rusher. He's a better ball carrier.
Right. Plus, Eckler set the market, and the next player always gets above that market value. So, yeah, he deserves what's on the same level as an Eckler because he brings the same type of skills to the table. But at least the Chargers were smart enough to keep him around no matter what that contract costs for a quote-unquote two-down running back.
All right, guys, we are over the 1 hour mark, so we have a few other supers stacked up that we are not going to forsake, but we're going to kind of rapid fire through this last few supers that are waiting. Mundungus jumping back in. Really appreciate you, my friend. Thank you. Do you see the Broncos making physical changes to the stadium to offer better protection for fans against what shall not be named? Yeah, I do think there will be certain things, certain improvements, certain upgrades, little things. I mean, just the fact that the first 8 rows are going to be blocked out is one change physically that's going to happen to the stadium. But I think you're going to see, Purell stands at freaking it's going to be
every 5 feet.
Yeah, they're going to be everywhere. So I don't know exactly how that's going to shake out, but even in the locker room, players are going to be one locker removed from each other. So instead of being locker to locker to locker, you're going to have one empty locker in between each and every player, among many other different things.
Plus, you're going to have, when you enter the stadium, in terms of the fans, temperature checks, stuff like that. They're going to probably hand out masks, maybe hand sanitizer, like you said, Chat. They're going to do, I think, a lot more for the fans than they would the players, considering how many more players there are in a packed, little space. But the fans, if they do have fans in the stands, and waiver or not, they're going to do everything in their power to avoid a potential contamination or spread. Because that's just, waiver or not, the PR they do not need in these times.
Dave Darlington, Cali Dave jumping in. I wish Gordon was with the crew, but I'll wait till time for camp to have an opinion on him. And I think that's fair. I think that's probably, you can make inferrals or inferences, I guess is actually the right word, on what's occurred so far. But just wait before you really get too far out over your skis on any opinion or take on Gordon. Let's wait to see him actually in action on the field doing something. And as always, Dave, we do appreciate the super. We got Terry reminding everybody, Zach, hit that like button. You guys have no idea how much it helps us. Even if you don't hit the like and you hit the dislike, that helps us too. Engage with this video. It all helps in the algorithm. We're trying to crush the algorithm. Appreciate you, Terry. All right, let's see if we got anything here. We're over the mark here, so I'm going to wrap this up, and I'm going to contact I think that was the last one. I'm going to contact my internet company and say, what the heck, dudes?
Yeah.
Gio, I'm a creature of habit too, Chad. I don't drink Red Bull, but I am into NOS as far as energy drinks. I used to be just a straight coffee guy, but I ended up getting into the sugar-free Red Bulls, and now I got to have them. All right, guys, that wraps up today's episode of the Huddle Up Podcast. Thanks to each and every one of you for joining us. We hope that you all had a phenomenal 4th of July weekend.
Yes.
Our great listeners in the community who aren't in America, hope you had a great weekend. But it was a special 4th, I think, for most of us here in the U.S. of A. And as Buana points out here, hey, everyone, thanks for coming. Can't wait to see you tomorrow. Same time, 6 p.m. Mountain, 8 p.m. Eastern. We do love you. And a good reminder there from Buana Beast, guys, keep the conversation going at milehighhuddle.com. We're hanging out there. We're publishing articles like Zack's Kelberman Corner that just came out a couple days ago. Hopefully you guys have checked that out. I'm publishing multiple articles every day. Eric Trickle, Nick Kendall. That's where we keep the conversation going in between pods. So go over there, comment, engage. We want to see you there. And also don't forget to leave a comment on whatever you read. Follow the podcast on Twitter at HuddleUpPod, also at Mile High Huddle. And do not forget to follow my partner here, Zack Kelberman, at Kelberman NFL, myself at Chad and Jensen. Zack, have a great start to the week, bro. I look forward to talking with you again tomorrow night.
Of course, Chad, and I'll say it like I do every other Sunday. Hopefully we have some news to talk about. I'll say it every Sunday night, every year podcast until July 28th when training camps roll around. Regardless, though, looking forward to seeing you tomorrow night. Everyone else, have a good night.
What's this from Big E real quick? Chad, contact your internet provider. Have them turn down your wideband. That will speed up your internet. I don't know. It's Xfinity is what I'm on, so I'm gonna have to call them and find out why that happened tonight, though. So anyway, appreciate your patience on that, gang. You know, it's bumps in the road every once in a blue moon, but we'll see you guys tomorrow night. Mile High salute to our Super Chat superstars. We love you. See you Monday night. For Zack, I'm Chad. Talk to you then.
You've been listening to the Huddle Up Podcast. Join Broncos Country's deep divers at milehighhuddle.com to keep the conversation going.